The weight room went silent at exactly 3:47 in the afternoon. Ironworks Gym, Tulsa, Oklahoma. June 15th, 1993. Tommy Morrison was wrapping his hands, getting ready for his 4 o'clock training session. He'd just won the WBO heavyweight championship from George Foreman 8 days earlier. Unanimous decision, 12 rounds of technical boxing that proved Morrison wasn't just the pretty boy from Rocky V. He was the real deal. 24 years old, 48 wins, 3 losses, 42 knockouts. The Duke, the great white hope, the kid from Oklahoma, who'd fought his way from Toughman contests to Hollywood to the top of the heavyweight division. And today, he just wanted to train in peace. Marcus Braddock had other plans. 6'5", 270 pounds of muscle, ex-NCAA Division I wrestling champion from Oklahoma State. Marcus taught wrestling at Ironworks 3 days a week, trained MMA fighters on the side, and had spent the last 8 days watching everyone in Tulsa talk about Tommy Morrison like he was some kind of god. It bothered Marcus. Not jealousy, he'd tell himself later. Principle. Boxing wasn't real fighting. Real fighting was wrestling, submissions, ground control. Marcus had won 87 matches in college, placed 4th at nationals, trained with UFC fighters before the UFC even existed. And here was this pretty boy boxer getting all the attention for dancing around an old man in a boxing ring. At 3:47, Marcus walked across the gym floor. 40 people were scattered around, lifting weights, running on treadmills, hitting bags. 3 reporters from local papers were in the corner, waiting to interview Morrison after his training session. A camera crew from Channel 8 News had just set up in the back. Perfect audience. Marcus walked right up to Tommy Morrison, who was standing by the heavy bag, focused, in his zone. And Marcus grabbed Tommy's shoulder. Hard. Squeezed it like a vice. Morrison turned around slowly. His face showed nothing, but everyone who knew boxing recognized what was happening. Morrison was reading Marcus, calculating, measuring threat level in half a second. "You're the champ," Marcus said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Beat an old man, and now you think you're tough." Morrison didn't respond, just stared. Marcus smiled. "I wrestled Division I, 87-12 record. I've submitted guys twice your size. Boxing is cute, but it ain't real fighting. Want to prove you're actually tough, champ? Let's go. Real fight. No rules. Right here." The gym went completely silent. 40 people stopped what they were doing. The reporters pulled out notepads. The camera crew hit record. This was about to be news. Jake Sullivan, the gym owner, watched from his office. He should have stopped it. Should have thrown Marcus out right there. But Jake was thinking about publicity. This would put Ironworks on the map. Whatever happened next, people would talk about it. Morrison looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then he looked at the cameras, at the reporters, at the 40 witnesses. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, controlled. "You sure you want to do this?" Marcus laughed. "I'm sure, pretty boy. Let's see what a real fighter looks like." Morrison nodded once. Then he turned to Jake. "Call an ambulance now. You'll need it in about 5 minutes." What followed became legend in Tulsa. Became a story that boxing coaches would tell for decades. Became the reason you never, ever put your hands on a professional fighter. Marcus came in fast, confident, going for a double-leg takedown. Standard wrestling move. Get the boxer on the ground where he can't punch. Marcus had done this move thousands of times. But Tommy Morrison had grown up fighting in Toughman contests in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. He'd fought bikers, bouncers, farm boys, ex-military. He knew what a wrestler looked like when they shot in. Morrison stepped back, angled out, and threw a left hook. The punch landed on Marcus's temple as he was coming in. Physics did the rest. 270 pounds of forward momentum met professional heavyweight punching power going the opposite direction. Marcus's head snapped sideways. His legs went rubber. But he didn't fall yet. Training and pride kept him moving forward. Morrison hit him again. Right cross to the jaw, then a left to the body that cracked 2 ribs. Marcus finally went down, tried to cover up, tried to wrestle from the ground. Morrison stood over him and threw 3 more punches. Controlled, precise. Not trying to kill him. Just teaching him the difference between college wrestling and professional fighting. The whole thing took 42 seconds. At 3:48, Marcus Braddock was on his back, semi-conscious, bleeding from his nose and mouth, 2 cracked ribs, severe concussion, and the understanding that he'd just made the worst mistake of his life. The ambulance arrived at 3:56. Paramedics loaded Marcus onto a stretcher. The reporters had everything on camera. Every second. Every punch. Every moment of a college wrestler learning why you don't challenge a professional boxer. But the physical beating was just the beginning. What Tommy Morrison did next was calculated, methodical, and completely destroyed Marcus Braddock's career. Over the next 72 hours, Morrison gave 6 interviews. Channel 8 News, The Tulsa World, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Boxing Weekly, every single one. And in every interview, Morrison told the truth, told exactly what happened. How Marcus had challenged him unprovoked. How Marcus had grabbed his shoulder during training. How Marcus had called boxing fake and challenged him to a real fight. How the whole thing was on camera with 40 witnesses. But Morrison did something else. He brought receipts. In the Sports Illustrated interview, Morrison pulled out Marcus's wrestling record from Oklahoma State. 87 wins, 12 losses. Sounds impressive until you look at who Marcus lost to. Morrison had done his homework. Every single one of Marcus's 12 losses came against wrestlers who went on to fight professionally. Marcus had never beaten anyone who made it to the next level. He was a big fish in a small pond. The ESPN interview was worse. Morrison brought footage of Marcus teaching wrestling classes at Ironworks, showed how Marcus would brag to students about being able to beat any boxer, showed how Marcus had been talking trash about Morrison for weeks before the confrontation, showed this wasn't a spontaneous challenge, this was premeditated. Marcus had planned this, wanted the attention, wanted to be the guy who exposed Tommy Morrison. By day 4, Marcus's life was falling apart. Ironworks gym fired him. Jake Sullivan released a statement saying Marcus had violated gym policy by starting an unsanctioned fight, and that Ironworks did not condone violence. The lawsuit came on day 7. The gym sued Marcus for creating a hostile environment, damaging their reputation, and putting their insurance at risk. 40 witnesses testified that Marcus started it. The camera footage was crystal clear. Marcus lost the case. Had to pay $12,000 in damages. His wrestling coaching license was suspended. His reputation in the Oklahoma martial arts community was destroyed. Nobody wanted to be associated with the guy who got knocked out in 42 seconds by a boxer. But Morrison still wasn't done. He reached out to every MMA gym in Oklahoma, every wrestling program, every martial arts school. Not to blacklist Marcus. That would have been too obvious. Instead, Morrison did something smarter. He offered free boxing seminars, taught wrestlers how to defend against strikers, used footage of his fight with Marcus as a teaching tool. This is what happens when you don't respect range. This is what happens when you shoot in without setting it up. This is what happens when ego overrides training. Marcus became a cautionary tale, a case study, the example of what not to do. 12 months after that 347 confrontation, Marcus Braddock's life looked nothing like it had before. No job coaching wrestling, no students, no reputation. He'd moved to Wichita, Kansas, trying to start over. But the footage had gone viral before viral was even a thing. VHS tapes of the knockout circulated through every gym in the Midwest. Everyone knew Marcus's face. Everyone knew his story. In 1994, a reporter from the Oklahoman tracked down Marcus for a follow-up, asked him if he regretted challenging Tommy Morrison. Marcus was 32 years old, working construction, living in a studio apartment. The interview was published under the headline, "When Ego Meets Reality." "I thought boxing was just punching," Marcus said. "I thought my wrestling would be enough. I thought wrong. I grabbed his shoulder like he was some kid I could intimidate. He wasn't a kid. He was a professional. And he treated me like I was sparring practice." "Do you hate him?" the reporter asked. "No," Marcus said. "I hate myself for being that stupid." Morrison gave me every chance to walk away. He asked if I was sure. He told Jake to call an ambulance. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And I was too arrogant to listen. The reporter asked one final question. "If you could go back to June 15th, 1993, what would you do differently?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he answered, "I wouldn't have walked across that gym. I wouldn't have touched his shoulder. I would have minded my own business and let the champion train in peace. Because the 5 minutes of ego cost me everything. My job, my reputation, my career. All because I thought I knew better than a professional. I didn't." Tommy Morrison never spoke about Marcus Braddock again after those first interviews. Didn't need to. The message had been sent. The lesson had been taught. 42 seconds of physical domination followed by 12 months of systematic career destruction. Not revenge. Education. In 2007, 14 years after the incident, Morrison was asked about it during a radio interview. "You destroyed Marcus Braddock's career over a gym confrontation. Some people say you went too far." Morrison's response was immediate. "I didn't destroy his career. He destroyed his career when he grabbed my shoulder and challenged me in front of 40 people and cameras. I just showed everyone what happens when you disrespect a professional. Could have killed him in those 42 seconds. Could have kept hitting until he stopped moving. But I didn't. I controlled it. Taught him a lesson and walked away. Everything after that? That was consequences. He sued my gym. He bragged about beating me before it happened. He made himself the story. I just made sure people knew the truth." The interviewer pressed. But his whole life fell apart. Morrison's voice was harder now. His life fell apart because it was built on ego and trash talk. When that got exposed, there was nothing left. That's not my fault. That's his fault. And you know what? After that day, nobody ever grabbed my shoulder again. Nobody challenged me in a gym again. Because they saw what happened to Marcus. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. The interview ended there. But the story lived on. Passed through boxing gyms, MMA schools, wrestling programs. A warning. A reminder. Respect professionals. Understand weight classes exist for a reason. Know the difference between confidence and stupidity. Marcus Braddock learned all 3 lessons. It only cost him 5 minutes and everything he'd built. June 15th, 1993. 3:47 in the afternoon. The moment a college wrestler grabbed a world champion's shoulder and learned why you never touch Tommy Morrison.